The tear that finally escaped Elena's eye was not a product of sadness, but of pure, crushing humiliation. It slid down her cheek and landed precisely on the crisp $5 bill resting next to her plate. This single, crumpled note represented her entire budget for the evening. A meager offering meant to cover a modest coffee or maybe half an appetizer. Certainly not a dinner date at the Obsidian, the very restaurant where she spent her mornings on her hands, and knees scrubbing marble floors, a place where the air itself smelled of unearned wealth and delicate truffle oil. She had booked this table under a false name, feeling a dizzying, defiant thrill that lasted only until the arrival of the man she was supposed to meet, a man whose judgment was now a physical, suffocating weight pressing down on her slender shoulders. Elena was a woman etched by labor, a single mother whose dreams had long ago been filed away beneath the weight of unpaid utility bills and school forms. She worked 3 different jobs, one of which was cleaning the penthouse suite on the 45th floor of this very building for a man she had never seen, a reclusive billionaire named Alistair Vance. Her exhaustion was permanent, a low hum beneath her skin, but tonight she had worn her only good dress, a threadbare velvet that she'd found on sale, hoping against hope that one honest human connection might ease the crushing isolation of her life. She'd told the blind date organizer she was a project manager, knowing that revealing her true occupation as a maid and janitor would guarantee an empty chair. Alistair Vance, a man whose net worth could fund a small country, was indeed in the private booth adjacent to Elena's, separated by a thin, sculpted partition. He was not dining, he was brooding. Jaded by a life where every interaction was tainted by greed or flattery, Alistair found his only genuine connection was to the cynical silence of his own apartment and the ceaseless, lonely activity of the city far below. He had chosen the remote booth to observe human behavior without participating in it. A passive, wealthy ghost. But the partition was flawed, allowing him to hear the escalating, dreadful conversation next door with crystalline clarity. The date, a man named Jeremy, spoke with a patronizing drawl that made Alistair, despite his vast fortune, recoil. Jeremy had ignored the cheap wine list Elena had carefully selected, demanding the most expensive Cabernet, and ordering a ribeye that cost more than Elena's entire week's grocery budget. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was deliberately creating a debt she could not pay, establishing an immediate, cruel hierarchy. Then came the awful, inevitable question. "So, I assume you're picking up the tab for this, seeing as you insisted on this spot, project manager?" The sarcasm on his final words was palpable, a sneer Alistair could feel across the air. Elena's entire posture, the way her spine momentarily collapsed, the tremble in her hand as she reached into her worn purse, spoke volumes. She pulled out the $5 bill, the last piece of liquidity she possessed until Friday's paycheck, and placed it on the table like a plea. Her voice was barely a whisper, a sound raw with shame as she admitted she must have misread the price list and offered to pay for his appetizer and water. Jeremy's laughter was loud, dismissive, and utterly brutal. He called her a liar, a waste of his time, and stood up, knocking his heavy linen napkin onto the floor she would have to clean hours later. He didn't just walk away. He made a spectacle of leaving, loudly informing the nearest waiter that his cheap little date couldn't even afford the breadbasket, ensuring the entire dining room, including the management, heard his parting shot. Alistair Vance had witnessed thousands of transactions in his life. Deals worth billions, betrayals worth millions. But the sight of that single, soaked $5 bill next to the devastated woman at the small table broke through his fortified wall of cynicism. He didn't see a maid. He saw raw, unassailable dignity, fighting for survival against petty cruelty. He saw a soul who had dared to dream for 2 hours and was now being punished for her ambition. He raised a hand, not to a waiter, but to his personal executive assistant, who was waiting discreetly by the entrance, and murmured 3 concise, life-altering commands into his phone. Elena sat for what felt like an eternity, unable to move, too ashamed to look up at the familiar staff, who were now whispering. When the elegant maitre d' approached her table, Elena's heart seized. Certain she was about to be escorted out, perhaps even banned from the restaurant's employment entirely. Instead, the man placed a heavy, sealed envelope beside the damp $5 bill. He leaned down, his voice low and reverent, and said, "Madam, the gentleman in the private booth has settled the bill and requested that you read this immediately. And please, enjoy the dessert menu. On the house." Elena watched him walk away in a fog, her fingers trembling as she broke the wax seal. Inside was a cashier, his check for a sum large enough to pay off her debts and purchase a small home, more money than she could ever earn in 10 years, and a brief, typewritten note. The note was stark, direct, and entirely unsentimental. "I saw what happened. You deserve better than a man who judges worth by price tags. True character is not found in what one has, but in the effort one makes. I am offering you an opportunity. Effective tomorrow, you are promoted from janitorial services to my executive household manager. Your salary starts immediately. Use the enclosed funds to secure a future for your family and yourself. Your first day report time is 9:20 a.m. Show the front desk this note. I trust you know how to be discreet. A.V. The tears that came then were hot, silent, and entirely different from the tear of humiliation. They were tears of shock, of relief, and of a dizzying, terrifying chance at a future she had never allowed herself to envision. That crumbled $5 bill, the symbol of her deepest poverty, was now a bookmark in the first chapter of her new life. A life Alistair Vance had restored, not out of charity, but out of a sudden, profound respect for a woman whose struggle and character had inadvertently saved him from his own wealth-induced apathy. He realized that true value was never on a menu. It was in the resilience of a spirit refusing to break. This story is a powerful reminder that the greatest kindness often happens when no one is looking, changing lives with a single respectful gesture. If this narrative touched your heart and gave you a moment of pure emotional uplift, please show your support for Elena's journey and her incredible second chance by giving this video a like. Before you go, if you've ever felt judged unfairly or received a random act of kindness that changed your day, please comment below with the word "worth" and tell us your story. We read every single one. Thank you for watching.